I'm here to speak about my books, and particularly my latest one, The Great Awakening, released in March 2023. Now, Wendy was asking me before we were recording about how I got started in writing, and it was really just a wanting to know the truth of life after death. That was my early history, and cut straight to the chase. Years later, I decided I had to write a book, and I was told this by spirit guides speaking through entranced mediums, more than one. The first one told me, you should be writing, and I thought to myself, God, my English is hopeless. How could I be a writer? Absolutely ridiculous. But I thought, oh, well, I'll have a go because, they don't give you advice for nothing. And it turned out really, I think that writing was my thing more because I could speak in a down-to-earth way. I was simplify things, whereas others, I'd sometimes read lots of books and they were a bit flowery, as it were. They go around the houses to get somewhere, or they put it into 100 words when they could put it into 20 words, we'll say, or a couple of hundred instead of 50, that sort of thing. So anyway, I cut to the chase and tried to simplify things. My first book was the Golden Enlightenment one in 1994, and that book was just questions and answers. I was a regular attender of spiritualist churches, so I used to love going and listen to the philosophy, and so I decided that was what I wanted to write about. If I was going to write about anything, I wanted to write about the philosophy, the teachings of spirit or spiritualism at the time, but more broad now with spiritism, and answer all the straightforward questions. So I sat down and thought to myself, what was the first question anybody wants to know? Is there life after death, as we'd say? Yes, obviously there is, and so forth. And worked my way through and got up to, I think in the first book it was 35 questions and answers. And then in the second one, 50, and now the latest one, 60. Anyway, the answers, I had to write them down. I was sitting in my lounge thinking, what's the answer to that? How can I word that? And trying to work it for beginners, what would be their mentality? How would they look at things? How can I simplify things to reach them? And so I did that. And sometimes I'd write things down, the little flow, as best you can call it, of energy around, because when you start trying to work for spirit, you often get energies around you. Obviously, the spirit guides draw in, and people who try and help with the writing. One of mine's a monk, and the energy coming in. Sometimes I'd look and think, oh, how did I write that? What is that right? I don't know if that's right, and yet I'd written it. So I started going back to double check on things. Sometimes I'd go to the same spiritualist church the very next Sunday on this occasion, and the medium would start talking about the same thing, exactly the same thing I'd been querying. And even say from the platform, I don't know who this is for, but I'm being inspired to talk about this. And they confirm what I'd written down, so that was handy. And then I also went to a very good trance medium and took a load of questions for the guides that came through her, and got confirmation or answers and explanations. So that's how my writing got started, really. It was sort of a mix of inspiration and ideas, plus guidance from the spirit people in the first place telling me to write, and getting the ball rolling with the first book. And then for years, obviously, it's difficult to originally publish books. You had to fund it yourself before Amazon came along and made it a lot easier. So I worked my way up through various books, and one of the ones along the way is called The Reason Why You Were Born, and that was a bit more personal in that as well as the spirit answers, put in a completely different way. You know, it went through the same sort of spirit philosophy. Obviously, the philosophy doesn't change; it's eternal once you get to a certain point, or at a certain level of vibration. It may be expanded upon as you go up the vibrations. But anyway, so in the reason why you were born, I put laid out things in a different way as though I was answering or speaking to a friend. So it was worded in that way. Like in my mind, I was speaking to a nephew or a niece and giving them the wisdom, as it were, of what I'd learnt over the years to explain how everything works to my limited degree of understanding. I'll say limited, it's probably advanced compared to the average person on the street, but limited compared to if you go up to the celestial realms, I'm probably as silly as you can get. But with being silly, it's fun, isn't it? You have to have a bit of fun in life. Let yourself go, let your hair down, if you depending how much you got. That's then of course it was the next follow on for the Golden Enlightenment one, and you get inspiration in different ways to write things. And I'd given away all my Golden Enlightenment and Golden Enlightenment 2 books. I didn't have any left, and somebody contacted me and said, you know, have you got any more? Because I want to take them in and give them to people in prisons. And I thought to myself, no, I haven't got any more. But I had been getting the idea, promptings I expect, to rewrite the Golden Enlightenment one and expand upon it and add in more questions and answers. So I did that. You know, I said, so I told him I was going to do that, and then I sent him some copies to take into the prisons. So hopefully got a few less criminals out there with a bit of luck, less to send to Australia and places. So that came about, that got expanded upon. There was quite a few things I reword things because, as I put in the Golden Enlightenment 20-year one, over the years, 20 years since the first one, when that one came out, it was, your way of looking at things changes over the years, your way of expressing and the way of your understanding deepens, I suppose is the word. So I'd put that that newfound or new elevated level of understanding as best I could put it into the latest book, and the extra questions I think helped people a lot more as well, because some of those were corroborations of some of the earlier parts. They were expanded upon, so they weren't just 100% separate questions. Some of those were expanded ones that took the subjects a bit further. So that was that book, and there were various other little books I've done that you'll find. They're all on Amazon, Kindle, paperback, cheap. Being an OAP, senior citizen, I don't write for the money. I never have really, but these days with a small pension and small outgoings, I don't need the money, so I make the books as cheap as possible on Amazon. So that's my self-promotion on that one. The latest book, as I say, I don't know if it comes out well on camera, but yeah, get it there, steady. The Great Awakening. That's a book for these times. The book it started off, well, as probably lots of people know, there's very few who are not awake to some degree that what's been going on Earth, well, for a long while really, but particularly since 2020, hasn't been for the betterment of the majority. It's been, for the so-called elite who have been trying to get their own way and run the world how they see fit, and it's not the way that it should be run from the average person's point of view, and definitely not from the spirit point of view. So there was lots of people were sharing information online on Facebook and so forth, the odd email telling me about different things going on. And it was all a bit fragmented. There was a message you'd see one week, and then you'd see another one another week, and people would forget these. And what drove me to write the book, because I wasn't really going to write it originally. I thought, I can only share so much. I did a web page. I discovered how to do that, and started putting some links on there to people telling the truth, the spirit ones, and doctors, nurses, scientists that were honest and straightforward and would tell you their understanding of things that weren't making it to the mainstream media because of censorship, with no vested interest. In fact, a lot of these people were losing their jobs for speaking out, or doctors being sacked for prescribing things for what they called COVID, which may have been COVID or a virus of some sort. They were prescribing drugs that were getting rid of it, basically, helping the patients, and they got sacked for helping their patients, basically. They were told, no, you can't do that. We want to jab them all with this concoction we're going to come up with, which they'd pre-planned, obviously, because, as mentioned in the book, Rudolf Steiner had forecast this over 100 years ago. And he said that they would come up with what he even over 100 years ago described as a vaccine that is designed to drive the inclination towards spirit out of people and foster the materialist mindset of people, and keeping them focused purely on the physical, even to the point of putting a chip in their brain right from birth, to basically take away the inclination, he describes it as, but you could say control them as well, control their thinking, and regard any inclination towards spirit life as mental illness, basically. So he was forecasting that a long while ago, over 100 years. I think it was 1917. So that's the bad news. But the good news is the Great Awakening is not just awakening to what I'd call the dark agenda of the materialists, or the globalists, as they're called these days, but it's also an awakening of human consciousness linked with the spirit life. So amazingly, it seemed amazingly when I first heard it anyway, we live in a third dimension world, but we're being upgraded. It's quite amazing, really. It's a fifth dimension of consciousness, which when I first heard it, I thought, oh yeah, well, that sounds nice and fanciful and so forth. But then you start getting it from not just one spirit guide, it comes through from multiple spirit guides. And then you think, well, must be something in this if they're all saying it, especially when it's ones you know are reliable mediums and reliable spirit guides speaking and saying exactly the same thing. The corroboration again, that what we're being told is true, how quickly it all unfolds, and we all awaken to, well, lots of us awaken to higher levels of consciousness. We'll wait and see. Some of us quicker than others, I expect, and some maybe not at all. They've said, they'll have to come back and try again on another occasion, reincarnate or get born again. So I decided that when there were people I was sharing information with, like from my web page, that explained from the spirit point of view with links to what the good spirit guides were saying, and they're all good, and what the scientists who were honest and the doctors who were honest were saying. Not that they're all dishonest, but some of them just play the party line. They don't want to rock the boat. But the ones that were speaking out, I put links there, and I'd share it with certain people, and some people were just ignoring it and regarding it as, what do they call? They called it fake news and other such labels. You have a name for it now. But anyway, they regarded it as not worthy of their attention, and they were going ahead following what they were being told by politicians, and which I've regarded as absolutely insane. Why would anybody who's on the spirit path, including healers, take the word of a politician over the word of well-established mediums and their guides? It didn't make sense to me, and the fact that it was all fragmented information. Maybe after about a year, I thought, well, I'm going to have to put it in the book. It's too late to try and convince everybody. I couldn't stop them going ahead and having their jabs, which may or may not be dangerous for them. In lots of cases, obviously, it hasn't bumped everybody off, so it hasn't been fatal. And you'll find that some vaccinations, as they call them, are worse than others, and some are placebos. But that's another story. It's mentioned in the book. Wight Feather, who speaks through Robert Goodwin, mentioned that. So it's something to bear in mind, not to be panicky about it, because life's eternal anyway. So, if they want to bump everybody off, as it were, we're going somewhere better anyway. So I personally don't mind being bumped off, but I'm quite looking forward to going home to Spirit Life. But that's another story as well. So I'll try to be as reasonably brief as I can. Otherwise, I'll tell you the whole story. But in the book, it will explain and go through everything, and you'll find in there about 10 current physical or on the physical plane mediums who are channeling guides who will tell you the truth, and hopefully I'll find some more if I ever write another book, and find more who can explain about how the Earth's changing, and with the higher degree of consciousness, the fifth dimension, as they call it, all the things that are being promised for the future. Some of these things may take a while to manifest, but I think they're already beginning to unfold. There are new modes of healing coming about. I mean, nothing wrong with spiritual healing, of course, or spirit healing, because I used to practice that myself and still do in absent healing. But there's also higher technological machines being invented. I know there's one place where they've already set up lots of branches, over 100 worldwide already, where you can walk into a place, lay on a couch or sit in an armchair, relax, and the vibration that's being generated in the room retunes or helps to reharmonize the energy field of the body, and people get better. Their health improves. If they've got a condition, it may be cured, or so forth. They don't claim healing, of course, otherwise they get in trouble with the establishment. But anyway, these new modes of working are coming about. So I hope to put, if I do another book, I hope to put links to these and something about them in future books to encourage people. But the spirit guides are telling us these things will come about. And then eventually we'll all reach an even higher level of consciousness, probably after my time. And people will be able to channel it without any technical machines or anything. The level of consciousness coming through will be so high that it will bring healing much easier, as it were. Which, of course, and if we're all living more harmonious lives in the first place, we'll be less prone to illness anyway, because the more in harmony you are, the less likely you are to be ill in the first place. You're not going to generate a cancer in your body if there's no disharmony. or it seems very unlikely anyway, unless there's some other factor like food you're eating or some other external cause. If you eliminate the cause, you'll be okay in most cases. But of course, everybody's going to die eventually physically. So the spirit doesn't mind dying, doesn't mind the physical body dying. It gets you back home, so we don't have to worry about it. I'd look at the philosophy of nobody dies anyway, so it doesn't matter really in that sense. But obviously, it matters in the sense that from the physical point of view, we're custodians of Earth, and we want to leave it in as good a state as we can. And the way to overcome the dark agenda is simply non-compliance. But you've also got to have a bit of discernment or a bit of do a bit of research if necessary, and understand when you're not being told the truth. I mean, I could jokingly say, well, you're not being told the truth if the lips of a politician are moving. They don't tell the truth. Historically, it's been proven or shown that they haven't told the truth. So it just amazed me. Like it amazes me why people don't know about life after death. They should all know about life after death. It's quite basic thing everybody should want to know. They shouldn't be running around on Earth thinking, oh, there's only one life, live it to the full, and then you're dead. I mean, that is just a silly way of living. They have to, or they should, if they got common sense. I don't want to be critical, or do I? It's something you should want to know, and that you should also now want to know the truth about what you're being told, whether you're being told the truth by politicians and people speaking on behalf of politicians. And in most cases, or in many cases, you're not being told the truth, or certainly not the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Good one for Victor there. So get out there, discover the truth, read The Great Awakening, and you'll learn a lot more, I'm sure. So I'll leave it with you. If you want to read the book, as I say, it's on Amazon worldwide, and you'll find that and links to all my other books just by clicking into my name on Amazon, or you can find me on Google. There's things about me on there. Not about me, of course, but if you want to be nosy, see some pictures from when I was young, when I was good looking. So I'll leave it all with you. If you do read it, let me know what you think. You'll find my email address. You'll find me on Facebook, just straightforward under my name. I have some web pages with my name. So Wendy will put some links to, I believe. And so get back to me if you want to ask any questions, and I'll be happy to help as best I can. And if I've forgotten to say anything, remind me what I've forgotten, and then I can say it another time. Take care then. Bye.